You met Jay Berube in the last episode, the Saturday episode, Truth Around Property Management, but I met Jay Berube at NARPM Southern States when he came up to our booth and basically said, hey, I got a big keynote on AI coming up. I am the foremost expert in AI for property managers, and I need to know what you guys are up to. So immediately I liked this guy. It wasn't just the mohawk and the fact that I used to like punk rock and ska, but I like anybody who is branding themselves an expert in a new thing and really doing the work of understanding everything. I've grown to understand that Jay is a guy who grew a property management company from 0 to 300 doors in a very short amount of time. He then launched a virtual staffing company, this remote teammate hiring, a very premium one called BetterWho, and later evolved into coaching as well because his clients are all looking for growth, looking for staffing, and realized that AI is the future. So he's done the work of understanding where it is and where it's going. Now, here's what's really interesting about Jay. AI directly threatens his business model, right? AI directly threatens his staffing agency, and he's understood that he doesn't have to fight this thing. He just has to evolve with this thing. He has a vision for that. So I thought he'd be a perfect person to bring in, to empathize along the lines of like, my business is changing and all this stuff is happening, and how does somebody that's really smart about it think about it? But not just that, he's really going to tease out this idea of these next immediate steps around AI, where it's at right now, what the future looks like is in the short term, and what the future is of this mix between remote teammate, AI agents, and all this other technological stuff that's coming. You're going to love Jay. You probably already know Jay. Let's just face it, he's kind of a famous inside the industry, and I'm the last guy to find out. Enjoy this episode. Let me know what you think. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. Jay Berube, man, I met you when you walked up to our booth at, I believe it was Southern States last year, and you were like, I am the foremost AI expert in property management, and I'm here because I take really seriously what tools are out there, who's talking AI, what it means. And at first I'm like, wow, who's this guy that's like, I'm the foremost expert? And then right after I see you like keynote, main hall, your AI presentation for everybody, and it was awesome. So if I was to start somewhere, I find a unique genius in people who find a super valuable niche ahead of everybody else and make moves to own that thing. And you, as a conscious actor in becoming the foremost expert in AI in the property management industry, is a fascinating thing I want to hear. So I want to hear from you. At what point were you just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go all in on this, and I'm going to be that person. I'm going to introduce myself that way.
Yeah, great question. And it's not something that I was open to right away. And it was one of our remote team members at BetterWho. We had a marketing director who had mentioned sometime in 2023 that we need to be prepared for AI. And this was, probably a couple of months after the launch of ChatGPT. And I didn't know what to do with that. I pushed back, but then I was curious and I started researching and deep diving and understanding the fact that this is not going to slow down. All businesses we have to do more with less. I mean, you hear it. You have a staff member that company's downsizing because they have to be more profitable. So the first thing they do is they start cutting labor. And then you have somebody else on the team that has to pick up the slack from the other person. And now all of a sudden that person has to be more efficient. So we're really looking at efficiencies in companies and how that leads to profitability, and then tying that into the opportunity that AI brings to the table, in addition to remote team members, which was our primary service at the time, really just got me intrigued and started to really deep dive and then realized that there was a big opportunity, not just for us as a company, but to teach property managers how to build an AI efficient company.
I love that, man. In my first engagement with Vendoroo, I was, hired to do this workshop and create this like narrative of our point of view and all that stuff that I've talked to you about that has to do with category design. And one of the things that became very, very clear to us is the idea that, at least in the problem that we solve for in maintenance, maintenance really hasn't changed ever. And the biggest innovation in maintenance has been remote teammates, right? Like that one thing of, at least we found some way to like reduce cost in a certain way that may or may not be comparable to the same level of quality or whatnot. And the idea of AI solving for a new way of solving an old problem, which is this idea that you want to reduce costs, you also want to increase quality, you also want to increase efficiency, all these other things was something that it took me a while to like really digest. But what I'm hearing in what you're saying is a validation of that, right? That the idea that remote teammates and AI are more alike than you think, right? Like it enters from the same door of the problem that companies are trying to solve, which is how do we become more efficient? How do we do more with less? And I think that that's a real aha. Like I don't think most people when they think of AI they realize that it is tied to the same desire of hiring remote teammates and doing those things. So that's really cool, man. Tell me about kind of like when you entered into it, right? Like it was ChatGPT has just come out. How did you approach really understanding it, right? Like if I'm a property manager that's trying to be like, well, Jay might be the expert. He's 2 years ahead of me on this stuff, but I really want to like become schooled in it. What path did you take to really get to the point where you're like giving keynote presentations and stuff like that?
Well, first off, I wouldn't recommend that any business owner does a deep dive on AI. That rabbit hole and the time that I've spent learning and really understanding what AI is, for me, I'm passionate about it because I'm highly interested in efficiency and profitability. That's what we do for companies. We help them become more profitable and build efficiencies, looking at their teams, their systems, their revenue, profit, and their growth. So it's all based on profitability for me, the way I look at it. So you can only be more profitable by either increasing your income or reducing your expenses, right? You have to create leverage. So there's two major ways to create leverage. One of those is with your labor costs and reducing your labor cost, which remote team members from the NARPM benchmark study that was done in 2022, I think of the most profitable property management companies, 64% of their team was remote.
Mm.
And that is something that really jumps out and slapped me in the face and started getting me on the path of really focusing in on that profitability. Now, there's this transfer of knowledge. This is something that everyone can resonate with. You hire a new team member, local or remote, and you have to train that person because for most property managers, it's all in their head. They don't have documented systems, never mind having processes that are automated in a system. So transferring that knowledge and teaching someone else what they know is there's just so much redundancies, waste of time, and then if they're not a good leader, which it's hard to be a good leader if you're stuck in the business, then all of a sudden, you're spending so much time training somebody, and then 2 months later, that person's gone. You have to do it over again. So why not have all of that knowledge stored so that we have the conditional logic? We know what to do when a maintenance request comes in and maybe it's my toilet's not working. Well, your toilet's not working if there's a couple different things that you could do to diagnose it and what questions do you ask, right? All of that training is what AI can do and what AI does, what you guys are doing, which really makes companies more efficient, reduces the amount of training. So for me, it's not really about AI agents replacing remote team members or remote team members placing local staff. It's about having the proper mix and understanding how to be more profitable and be more efficient as a company.
I like it, man. You brought it up to like what is the problem that we're solving, right? And I guess if I was to rephrase what you're saying that the problem that we are trying to solve is to build the most efficient and profitable company first. Like that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think if you can kind of zoom out and have that, it allows folks to let go of some of the preconceived notions that they may have over either of these solutions that we're talking about, over either remote teammates or AI. And then furthermore, I like the distinction of, kind of if we're looking down like this like filter, if we're clicking off filters, if we like click off the only show me lowering cost solutions, you're gonna see AI and RTMs. And then if you click another filter of like show me lower cost solutions that also institutionalize, not that are also hedge against risk or allow you to continue the same level of quality, with like less ramp up period, or I don't know how to say it, but that is a very good illustration of kind of like what this new iteration is going to be. And that was the thing that I didn't realize, right? As we talk to folks about the value prop of AI, there is some folks that opt in because man, they don't have a better system than like this AI system that we already have for them, right? So it's like this is just better for them. Some are, for some it's cheaper, but like as you get into like the more sophisticated property management company, the value prop of it really does become this idea of, oh, my internal institutional knowledge never goes away. My ramp up period to like train somebody new or like grow to like more accounts either goes away completely or greatly decreases. And I'm starting to like picture it as it's similar to going from being an operator that hasn't documented all their processes to then being an operator that has documented all their processes, and then going from being an operator that hasn't, that now that they have documented processes can now go hire a greater labor pool because they don't have to come in with their own individual expertise. And then the next step is like being an operator that now doesn't even have to hire for more labor pool because you have the processes, you have it documented, and now this like teammate, this AI is able to just like do it infinitely across multiple things. Is kind of the way that it dawned on me as you described. Is that how you think about it?
Yeah, essentially every company has an org chart, and org charts are changing, and they will continue to change and evolve as the new iteration of single family property management, just evolves. Where 1.0 was your local team, right? And then 2.0 is the implementation of remote team members, and now 3.0 is utilizing AI agents, not just AI tools, but actual AI agents that operate as just a regular team member with voice, with knowledge that is consistent. They'll actually be able to tap in other people on your team. There's AI agents out there that companies have built that are completely autonomous. And there's a mindset that needs to be shifted for most business owners, that the level of communication and service goes down when you hire remote or when you have AI involved. And yes, that was the past. Just like how VAs got a bad rap from people who were hiring in the Philippines, low quality, they heard accents all the time, and the people had like two or three jobs, but that's not the case anymore. That's not what we do. It doesn't have to be that way. So really just having the right partners in business and implementing remote team members and AI agents, if you do it the right way, which right now it is the time, your communication and level of service is going to be able to go up and actually meet tenants and landlords where they want to be met, because everybody has to do more with less. You need to have less logins for your software because there's just more distractions in place. Tenants want to text. I mean, most tenants just want the easy button. They just want to know the information. They don't necessarily want to talk to people. So you have to meet them where they are and understanding the fact that we have to have an AI efficient company that not only will make you more profitable, but increase the level of service, which is what we're doing already. I'm seeing this with consulting clients of ours that are working with Vendoroo, working with Super, utilizing other AI tools. We're seeing this already.
Okay, I would love to start just with like, what's it look like today, right? Like in what you're seeing, we are having these like collab projects under this like AI Alliance umbrella, which I think is really, really cool. And we're just kind of kicking that off. But like as you bring your clients into the mix and you're deep into their operations and like their mindset and their thinking, what does an AI efficient property management company look like today?
Yeah, so that's a really good question because there's, generative AI, which is, creating marketing descriptions and having AI co-pilots where you're able to utilize ChatGPT and other things that most people are familiar with to just make life easier, make things more efficient. And that's generative AI. And you're seeing more of that pop up within your softwares as well. That's not even close to what we're talking about in the future, which
Yeah.
the future is starting to come true right now. And the reason why I was so intrigued when I saw what you guys were doing, what Vendoroo was doing at the Southern States Conference, is because there's not many movers in AI that I've seen before that are really interested in picking up the knowledge and learning and also just hearing, and that's what is necessary for AI agents, for an AI team member to be able to operate within your company. So here's
Well,
what AI,
can I stop? Can I stop
yeah.
you there just for clarification? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by like there isn't people that are interested in pick up the knowledge? Like I thought, like when I entered the space, to me it's like, yeah, it's all about the data, right? Like everybody's just gonna get the data and then somebody's gonna be AI. But I think you're talking about something different. Like what do you mean by there isn't people interested in picking up the knowledge?
Yeah, well, you were doing interviews mostly. I mean, it wasn't about pitching what Vendoroo does, but rather it was asking property managers questions about their business, wondering what are the pain points in maintenance and what needs to be solved, and really just understanding and building out Vendoroo's AI based on that knowledge.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. All right, cool. So it's what I'm hearing from you is that something struck you intuitively that there was like a cultural difference of like how we're approaching this thing from like a curiosity standpoint. That's super cool. All right, cool. Continue your story then. You're going down this path of like we have this generative stuff. That's not the future right now, but like you're working with people to do it. What does the version of the efficient AI company look like right now?
Yeah, so companies that are talking to Vendoroo and other AI-driven companies are going to be the companies that we see 5, 10, 15 years down the road from now. The generative AI that I was talking about before, for some people, it's more of a distraction than it is an assistance. Done for you, right, is so much easier than having to put in the work and learn a whole new software or a whole new thing, right?
Mm,
I mean,
mm.
um, if just new technologies that come out, and as I get older, I don't necessarily want to deep dive in new things and start learning them because it's just a waste of time if it's not gonna make me productive. So right now, what we're seeing is some people dabbling in generative AI, and that's just like a sidekick to help them with marketing descriptions and inside of their software. But what we will see, and what we're starting to see already in other industries, is imagine going into your CRM and just asking a question such as, having a little co-pilot in there, and it's like a chat box, and just asking a question like, narrow down my prospects and only show me my prospects that live in the state of California and make over $500,000 a year, right? I mean, like you'll get, boom, the list that comes out. Asking a question like right now we have Notion. Notion is a data storage tool. I mean, a lot of people are using Notion for their knowledge and just working in there instead of like Google Drive or Microsoft Teams. But Notion, we have Our coaching call transcripts go in there. We have all of the knowledge attached to Google Drive in our company. We can ask any question in there, such as, tell me about so and so and the last three coaching calls that we had. What were the pain points that we had to solve? Remind me. And it just pulls that information up. Like, this is today, and this is what some property management companies are doing today, but very, very few. And the companies like Vendoroo that are building out solutions where a tenant calls in and the phone, and I don't know how Vendoroo, excuse me, I don't know if Vendoroo has any voice yet, but if a tenant calls in and has a maintenance issue, it can walk them through the maintenance issue, troubleshoot it, send it to a team member if that team member needs to handle it. Leasing questions that come in, not Vendoroo, but Super can do
Yep.
this. Leasing questions that come in can be answered. Follow-up text messages and phone calls can take place. It's the knowledge. The knowledge is what most people don't have, and this is the big hurdle that property managers are going to have in order to be that 3.0 company, which is one of the things that we're working on solving.
If you understand that change is coming and AI is this giant industrial revolution, you're going to want to work with a company that is AI by DNA. And that, my friend, is Vendoroo. We are a native agentic AI solution built from the ground up with this assumption that the AI future is here. And what Vendoroo does, it is able to handle 80 to 85% of all maintenance work orders from beginning to end, while elevating that extra 15 to 20% so that you can actually take care of it. And most importantly, just getting you out of the grind and the forever firefight of maintenance so you can do other things. Like one of our clients hired Vendoroo.ai, and within 6 months, the amount of time that saved her from maintenance, she dedicated herself to business development. She started adding 10 doors a month over the last 6 months. It's been 60 new doors. It's been a huge change, huge growth for her business, way more profitable. So if you want to do that, you want to get yourself out of the mundane, get your team out of the mundane, let them focus on stuff that really, really matters. Go to Vendoroo.ai, book a demo with us, and we would love to help you build an agentic AI property management business. Vendoroo.ai, book a demo. Enjoy the rest of the show. I love it, man. So if I'm hearing it correctly, you are saying that there's kind of like two approaches of how you use AI. One is, are you using AI to do the thing that you're doing in like a better, faster way, more creative way? And then there is, are you using AI to take problems off the table for you, to like deliver outcomes for you in a certain way? And the way that you're describing it is essentially, right now there's the ability to build these like knowledge bases that when you need the answer to something, it can give you the answer, not just give you a suggestion of how to answer. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, every company operates differently. We
Yeah.
all have different policies, we all have different ways of doing business. And for most companies, that's not even documented. That is the first step,
Yeah.
getting that information documented and doing it the right way. And that's one of the main things that we're helping companies with right now
Mm.
in the AI Alliance is getting the information documented so that the AI can know how you do business. Because all you have to do once you have the knowledge, right? And I'm like, figuratively showing the knowledge like it's a stack of books or something. But when you have the knowledge in your system in a PDF, whatever it is, you just feed it into the AI and it's there. And it's not something you have to do over and over again. That's just information that's within the partner that you have, like a Vendoroo or a Super.
Yeah.
It's just in that system.
Yeah.
So the AI knows about your business and how to do business.
Yeah, it's funny, man. The way that I have been kind of like thinking about it myself, and the way that I've opened up my eyes to it, is the idea of culturally trying to own the outcome or not, right? Like, is the purpose of the thing that you built to start something that is designed to completely own the outcome, or is it designed to be a better tool than the thing that you're doing? And what I'm hearing and what you're saying, which is really interesting to me, is that it's not surprising to me that you are the person that can bring forth this new AI version of property management, right? Go from 2.0 to 3.0. Because what it takes to own the outcome is you need to be able to be good at transferring knowledge to someone that can do the job for you. And whether it's how do you create the curriculum to train a remote teammate to like learn how to do it as good as you, or how do you create the conditions to train a AI agent to know how to do it for you, is a very similar approach, right? Like, so it's not just about like how do you acquire the most data, but how you actually put the data in a way that teaches you how to do something, not just like makes it easier for you to do it yourself kind of thing. That's what's coming to mind for me.
Yeah, think back to the days before Microsoft Excel and Word and all that. Once that came about, people had to know that. People had to be, are you familiar with Excel? Can you use it, right? Like that was something that you had to have on your resume. What you're going to see more and more is AI certified team members. And that's something we're working on at BetterWho is
Yeah.
an AI, which is actually going to be launched here very soon, an AI certified remote team member
Mm.
that is going to be the go-to person that you can lean on with AI related questions. And that's going to be for most of our positions. So we'll have AI certified maintenance coordinators, AI certified leasing, and there's some positions like I was talking about the evolution of the org chart. There's some positions that will be quickly replaced with AI, but then other positions will take much longer and some will just shift. So, for example, the days of a maintenance coordinator being able to handle 300 doors, right? Or a maintenance coordinator being able to handle 400 doors or 500 doors or maybe 1,200 doors because the use of AI.
Yeah.
So, you can have a remote team member that's managing 1,200 doors because you have AI within your company implemented correctly, rather than, let's just backtrack 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd have most companies that were using local team members and managing, say, 150, 200 properties, having one full-time person just doing that. Shoot, when I was in business, running my property management company, I had somebody doing leasing and maintenance coordination for 250 properties before we brought on our next person. And that was a local team member as well. I mean, I'm talking about 15 years ago now, but now that would be crazy.
Yeah. 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 A couple of things that I want to add to that in the sense of like to like illustrate that point, right? One of them is you're still going to need people, right? Like you're still going to need people because even like what we're seeing in Vendoroo is that our service as a software, right? Not software as a service, but right, like our ability to own the outcome can really just like take care of it beginning to end for like 80, 85% of work orders, right? But that just means that those like 15 to 20% of work orders that really, really need a whole bunch of TLC, right? Like somebody's still going to want to do that, right? Like somebody's still going to like want to communicate the major roof damage thing that might cost the owner 7 grand and talk to them every day about it and be their like counselor about it, as opposed to just like handling that thing, whatever. And then somebody's also going to want to be the person that follows up with the 80 to 85% and just being like, hey, all this stuff happened. Are you good with it? Like, did it, everything cool, right? Like that adding the personal touch on some of that stuff is still going to be very real. So like at some point you still need that maintenance coordinator. You still need that person that like understands the tool and understands the agent and how it performs in order to translate it to the human on the other end of the line for a bunch of things. And the other thing that you mentioned is you used to be in this constraint of whether it is a local teammate or a remote teammate, this like capacity versus cost constraint, right? So like let's say like one person, no tools, can handle 120 doors. 120 doors might be the total limit of that person, but really they're like a happy, great employee at like 80 to 100 doors. And then there's this like middle piece of just like when they're in a lot of pain and your business is a lot of pain, or you make the decision to bring a whole nother one and now they're each at 60 doors and they're both super happy, but you're not super profitable. The concept of what we're calling like fixed cost scaling, the idea that you can just like add a door for it's $5 a door to add another door to you, and at 100 doors is another $5 a door. For 100 doors or 300 doors it's that, and you don't have to go through these like swings of like profitability and pain as you move up in your door count, because you're not limited by this idea of like having a full person or a part-time person that needs this capacity, or the pain that of like that person not being there. To me is another piece of this like AI puzzle that, again, when you started with RTMs, an RTM is less expensive to add in, so you'd still have to do that, but it would be like less painful on like the profitability piece. But now you really can just like get to the point where if if you have this like AI efficient company, and you know that for every door that you add, your compute cost goes up by $5 for maintenance, $1 for lease coordination, $2 for inspections or whatever, right? Like now you can start to really build a business with like a core team that doesn't have to go through these like swings of pain as it goes up or down. And you as a business, you don't have to go through these like swings of like seasons of profitability, the as you like hire someone ahead of capacity. Are you starting to like are you starting to see benefits of that, or is that just like a conceptual thing right now?
If I hear you correctly, I'm envisioning something like predictable scalability,
Yeah.
being able to identify, okay, well, if this is like unit acquisition cost or just profit per unit, I mean, you can
Yeah.
run profit per unit as well, and then, know how much you're spending in direct labor. I mean, there's a data point, the DLER, which is direct labor efficiency ratio,
Hmm.
which has significantly improved. And this is a number that can be measured and is measured. We actually, in our onboarding process with our consulting clients, that's some information that we capture and we measure that as we move on in our relationship.
Yeah.
Every 90 days, we evaluate it, in fact, because we're working on companies' org charts with them. And that direct labor efficiency ratio is significantly improved with remote team members. And as we start implementing more AI, that DLER, as we say, is going to improve even more. And I'm interested to see how much it's going to improve as we evolve over the next 6, 12, 18 months. But at the same time, there's going to be new benchmarks that
Hmm.
we see as well, which I'm not quite sure what those are going to be yet, but there's going to be new benchmarks that we start tracking.
Am I right in thinking that that direct labor efficiency stat is one number, but then also the predictability of that direct labor efficiency is another number?
Not sure yet, but wouldn't it be nice to scale predictably?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be easier as we move forward with AI agents.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it right there. Okay, so I think we need to work on the term that we're calling it to like tie it back into that direct labor efficiency as opposed to fixed cost scaling. That's something we're coming up with. I like that, man. I like that. Tell me about sources of truth, man. I know that as we've been doing this like AI alliance thing, you've really latched onto that terminology and kind of how all this works. Tell me about that.
Yeah, like I was saying before, we all operate differently. And I say we because I own a property management company for 20 years and I'm in the day to day in our coaching and consult with our coaching and consulting clients. So like I get it and I see the evolution. So since everybody does business differently, that's been a challenge for us, you
Yeah.
know, understanding and for most companies, right? Because somebody wants to take a process that they find somewhere and completely adapt it and just use it as a plug and play in their business. But that's not the case. And plus, property management regulations in state and local regulations are much different. The West Coast is a lot more difficult to operate a PM company than the East Coast, a lot more regulations, and everybody has to do business differently, and everybody's systems are different. So documenting that information is critical for training AI. And that's something that we're currently working on putting together an easy button for, because having that information is what's going to help is what's going to really help your company move forward with AI. So sources of truth, for example,
Yeah.
policies. What are your policies for what's your resident selection criteria? What does the minimum credit score have to be? And do you require first, last, and security? Do you require co-signers? Do you serve student housing or HOAs? And those are going to be different, right? So like everybody operates differently. Your maintenance process, what do you do? And if do you have freezing temperatures, or are you in a hot area? If you have freezing temperatures, then there's certain things that you have to do during the winter, and AI needs to know this. So like the documentation of how you do business, that sources of truth, that's going to be the foundation of the knowledge. And that's the hurdle that I was talking about. And we discovered this in the past few months, really just working with our clients on implementing AI.
What's the difference between that and an SOP?
SOP is the way you do things, so those are procedures, but then
Mhm.
there's also policies. So, how many days until you return a security deposit? Do you allow pets? Do you allow home warranties? If you allow a home warranty, do you have to call the landlord to get the home warranty approved? What insurance do you need from landlords, and how long, what time frame do you need that in when you're onboarding somebody? So policies and procedures essentially make up the processes. And then the different processes like leasing process, marketing, maintenance process, move out process, all of those processes make up your operating system for your company.
Got it. Got it. So if, I guess I would simplify it to like sources of truth. There's like SOPs plus context, right? To a certain
Yeah,
point.
SOPs, policies and procedures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it. I like it, man. The other way that I met you was you're a guy that scaled a property management company pretty quickly, right? Like you went to like 300 doors in 2 years and you learned a bunch of lessons doing that. And you're now working with folks that are doing that. Can you talk me through kind of like the mindset of people that you see succeeding when they're really going for it kind of thing, like when they're trying to not just grow through word of mouth, but really put up bigger numbers and they're getting started. Can you talk me through kind of like what you see of what's working for people and what isn't?
Yeah, good memory. First couple years, I went from 0 to 350 doors and made a complete mess of it.
Yeah.
Learned learned a lot of things along the way. And growth is certainly important. And it's probably, the number one thing that you need to focus on in until you get to say 150 doors. What we say is that the three things from 0 to 150 doors, the three most important things is grow, hire, lead, right? So you have to grow your door count. You have to hire one or two people in that journey, and you also have to be able to lead them. I mean, the different skill sets to start a property management company, being the owner, and if you're operating, it's a lot, right? You have to wear a lot of different hats, and nobody is great at everything. So you have to really fine tune and improve the areas that you're not. So grow, hire, lead are the three things that you really need to do to get from 0 to 150 doors. On that journey, yeah, I mean, you just have to be really diligent, be okay with making a mess because you're going to. Everybody is. You have to make the mistakes. You can't be afraid of them. You can't be hesitant, right? I mean, you have to know that you're going to fail forward, but don't overanalyze. It's like make the decision, do the thing, learn from it, and adjust.
Yeah. Having been there, right? I wanted to purposefully go back to that, right? Like this idea that our friend that's listening right now, whether they're somebody that's at 50 and wants to get to 150 and they're learning from it, but then there's going to be somebody that's listening and they're like, yeah, yeah, I got past that too, right? Is there any parallel since you are now in this space where you are? I was shocked when you told me how few people in the market actually use remote teammates. So I feel like you're uniquely qualified because you are in this space of helping people transcend the context that they're in, right? Like you're in this space where you're taking them from, maybe tinkering with remote teammates to like really buying in on it and like making their business way more efficient, way more profitable. And now you've taken on this like task of like it's not just that, it's not going to 2.0, but it's going to 3.0. What are you seeing in the parallels of like when people get it, when they're going through the throes of going from 1.0 to 2.0 and going from 2.0 to 3.0, like what's working for them there? Is it a similar kind of like leadership mindset? Is it a similar kind of like growth mentality? What are you trying to start to see as parallels that isn't just about growth, but it's about like transition into like a new era of operations and business?
Yeah, I would say a big transition is going from operator to owner.
Mm,
And that's, essentially working in the business and doing all the things that you were doing when you started, then adding your team members, right? That grow higher lead 0 to 150. And then you have now the 150 to say 3 or 350 that it's kind of fun to grow to that point, but you get stuck and it's more difficult to increase profitability right around that 300 to 500 mark. Profitability typically goes down
mm,
in that space. So making the right decisions if you should grow or not is going to be critical. So really that is a massive area where we help clients break through. It's like first getting to the 0 to 150 and then getting to the next number while at the same time, right? There's four pillars of a property management business. There's system, team, growth, and profit. And a lot of people will always want to lead with growth, but most of the time we find that growth is not really where they need to focus. It's the team, it's the who. The who is the foundation of all of our businesses because if you don't have the right who's on your team, and this is what we teach and help people with, if you don't have the right who's, then you won't have a self-managing team and you won't be able to be a business operator. Excuse me, a business owner that's
yeah,
working on the business and not in the business.
yeah,
So we help companies build self-managing teams,
yeah.
and that's the biggest aha for people when they're able to start seeing a remote team member in a leadership role in their
Mm,
company. We have 20 remote team members in our company alone, only three stateside team members, myself and my business partner, Matthew. And then we have a coach and our head of sales, Jessica Foster. Everyone else is remote. Our leadership team, half of the team is remote. Just our leaders, everybody that runs the company are remote team members. So there's massive, massive talent out there, and having a self-managing team with the right tools at their disposal to be able to make the right decisions, because AI can make great decisions if it has the right knowledge.
mhm.
Humans will actually make worse decisions, and you'll see
Yeah.
that balance shift as time evolves. But building a self-managing team is the key to having profitability and having a company that you'll be able to sell in the future.
This feels like another kind of like intersectional point of why I see that you're like the perfect guy to lead this charge of the AI Alliance to simplify it. It sounds like at that point, that 350 to 500 to go from operator to self-managing team and business owner, it's almost like a leap of faith in control. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing in the adoption of at least our maintenance program, right? Like if you're gonna like let go of this thing and allow for AI to solve for this like super critical element of an experience that affects both the owner and the resident and the property management company, um, the thing that people most have the hard time with is the control part, right? Like it's
Big
like,
time.
yeah. So
Not just with AI, this isn't new.
That's why I'm saying
Control,
it's like an
yeah,
intersectional. Tell me more about that. Yeah, tell me about your experience with the control piece.
big hurdle. I've coached hundreds of property managers, and there's some foundational issues that all of them have. One of them is giving up control. I do this better than someone else. I do this faster than someone else. It's easier to just fix the problem myself. I don't want to compromise my level of service, right? Getting rid of some of those limiting beliefs, taking that risk and putting yourself in the right mindset of being the business owner is those are just some steps to do that. But giving up control is tough. I mean, it's something that's hard for all of us. I mean, it's hard for me too. So yeah, we have to get over that hurdle. We have to be okay with it and understand and have faith, right, that this is the path and that understanding that you will be out of business in the next 2 to 5 years if you don't build an AI efficient company. Just knowing that and moving away from, I tell people we do things, everything, for one of two reasons. And I don't know if you've heard me say this, Pablo. Either to move towards pleasure or to move away from pain. And what's more powerful?
Moving away from pain. I'm a marketer. I know
Ex-
that.
Exactly. Yeah, of course you do. Moving away from pain. So understanding the level of pain that you're going to have because this baby that you built that you want to protect and you don't want to give up control, that exact thing is going to be the thing that holds you back.
What's it look like in 5 years, man? Like you said we are 5 years or less away from like mass adoption of AI and like, people either being a AI company or being out of business. What is the post 5 year threshold? What is the company that is thriving? What does it look like?
It's hard to say in 5 years what that's going to look like specifically, but the reason why I say 2 to 5 years is because of how quickly things are changing, how quickly this is evolving, the amount of money that I see being invested. I mean, Elise AI, who is they're a company that specializes in real estate, and gosh, I forget the numbers, but they have billions of dollars behind them building out their AI. Amazon has invested, I think, 60 billion total in Anthropic, who built Claude. I mean, there's just so much money that's being dumped in here. And there's thousands of AI companies that are being launched every single week. And they're spending a year or two building out their company just to sell it to one of these other larger companies. And that's significantly reducing the evolution as well. So there's a lot going on, moving very quickly. I'm talking to a lot of companies that are either coming into the space in property management or are already here. And one of the first questions that I ask a new company, because you said something about actors before, I forget exactly what it is, but what immediately came to my mind is there's a lot of bad actors out there. Single family property management is a small world, and there's going to be bad actors that come out and they think they know what they're doing. They think they know the industry, but they don't. And they start pushing AI and what they do, but they don't really care about the everyday property manager. So we're going to see more and more of that coming into the business. And one of the first questions that I ask these companies is, what does your AI roadmap look like? Just regular tech companies, regular software companies that are in our industry already. I mean, at the last conference that we were at, I asked that question to every single tech company. I said, what's your AI roadmap look like? And the answers are pretty interesting. And the lack of answers are pretty interesting. So I know some people are holding their cards pretty tight because, they don't want to, give anybody else ideas of what they're working on. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting, man. I have a question about that though, right? Because I have my point of view on that, right? Like if you read The Innovator's Dilemma, right, what you learn about is like during these giant context changes, folks that are doing really well already they still see it, right? Like they see that all the stuff is changing, but usually what you see is somebody that wasn't around before. You see an incumbent unseat them, right? And like you'd think that the people that are doing really, really well already are the ones that are most likely to be like, oh yeah, I see it, and I have the resources to deploy to this because I can continue to keep my advantage. But you see the opposite. And the reason why you see the opposite is because for the incumbents to change, they essentially need to change their overall strategy, right? Like it becomes a moment where the thing that they were doing before, the easy way to say it for me is they are more anchored in preserving the past than they are into buying into the future. And the reason why they're so anchored in preserving the past and buying into the future is because when you start to like attack something new in a new way, it inevitably cannibalizes from like the old way of you doing it. So they don't have like they have these like boardroom conversations when it's like, hey, head of head of maintenance over here is arguing with like head of AI implementation for like, no, 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 give me more resources because I can make this problem go away right now versus continue to like dump resources into that's not really making the problem go away yet, even though we know it's going to happen, right? Like that's essentially what happened between Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster created DVDs by mail and created the subscription thing, but then their like revenue per store went down as opposed to up while this like other thing was growing. So they pulled the plug and now we all know the end of that story, right? And when I talk to property managers and I tell them the story and I'm like, somebody's, like if you're the incumbent right now, you've got the biggest target on your back because you're going to fall prey to this. But what I hear over and over from incumbents is like, yeah, but this AI stuff and all these players coming into the market and all like they're never going to be able to like overcome all these like regulations, right? Like there's all these regulations in place that they don't know about and there's all this like knowledge that I've built up over 25 years that they're going to have to build up inevitably. And to me, I'm just like, man, this is exactly what Blockbuster said, right? Like this is exactly what Medallions, like cab companies said. Like when you're in these conversations, like how do you rebut like that idea of like, yeah, but I'm still going to be here in 5 years because I've been doing it for 15, so I have to be there in 5 years.
You know what most people don't know is that Kodak invented the
Another one.
digital camera. I mean, they were one of the first movers, but they did not lean in to digital because they didn't want to cannibalize their biggest revenue stream. So when you hear about digital cameras, you don't typically think of Kodak first, which, if they leaned into it, you would. I mean, they were so
Yeah,
dominant.
yeah,
So that was a big mistake.
yeah.
I get asked the question, AI, Jay, won't AI cannibalize your business if it's replacing remote team members? Well, I mean, look, all businesses change and shift. We started as just a remote team member service company, and we did that for about a decade. And then a couple years ago, we really leaned into what we learned is that we can help people with direct hire remote team members and place good people. But if your company is a mess, if you don't have systems in place, if you don't have a way to train people and to lead people, then you're going to fail. And, selfishly, we want companies to succeed that we work with. It's better just better for everybody all around. So
Oh,
we really started leaning in. Where now half of our revenue comes from coaching and consulting. The other half comes from remote team members. So companies adapt, companies change. Same thing's going to happen with AI. People will still be needed. There's going to be less local people that need it because we have the philosophy that a desk job is a desk job and a field job is a field job. And a desk job can be done from anywhere in the world. So if it's a desk job that can't be solved with AI or an AI co-pilot, then there's going to be a remote team member. So there's still going to be remote team members. The remote team members that we place are going to be AI certified. The positions will likely change. Right now, about half of the positions that we place are maintenance coordinators, and I see that number will decrease. And we might be placing a lot of higher level team members like process architects and ops managers, integrators, right? Salespeople. Like these are all company positions that we place for right now because we do headhunting. But yeah, you have to adapt and change. And when you first started with this idea and this question, I was thinking about the time and the working on because I was thinking of the property manager that doesn't adapt, the one that is comfortable, or as I like to say, complacent, fat and happy. Well, things are going well. We're doing fine. We don't need remote team members. We don't need AI. Right now, you don't. And either you're complacent or you're just too busy working in the business. And if you're working in the business and you're burnt out and then you don't have time. And if you don't have time, then you don't have time to listen or to research and acquire that knowledge and educate yourself and surround yourself with the right people and be intentional and present listening to that and really be a true business owner to work on the business and not in the business. So once you move towards working as an operator to owning a business, you'll be able to take the time to understand how important this is to shift. So either you don't have the time or you're too comfortable if you're not making the moves to lean into AI, or you just don't think it's important yet. But you're going to see how important it is, and it might take a couple years for some people, it might take longer than that, but this is going to be faster than the evolution of hiring remote team members. This shift is going to be much, much faster.
Well said, my friend. One of my mentors and kind of like idols, he says it all the time. Thinking about thinking is the most important kind of thinking, right? And like if you don't have that space because you're too busy doing the thing, you're gonna have a major weakness. And in the middle of all these context shifts, man, like this is extinction level event stuff, I think, in the next 2 to 5 years out here. So last question for you, Jay. The podcast is called the Frame Breakers Podcast, right? Because we're trying to show people that are thinking about things differently and have the courage to like have a view about the future and show how well that works. But it's really hard to change, and I'm trying to like normalize the idea that we've always changed. So what I'm asking everybody is, what's something that in your 20s you were 100% sure of that you no longer believe anymore?
Well, I mean, this doesn't relate to the topic that we're talking
Exactly.
about, but I was of the mindset that if you were great at sales, that you would have a bulletproof business. And then I started learning about marketing. And I also realized that I was burnt out because I had sold 1,400 homes in 15 years. And I did all of that without marketing. And I was doing a lot of cold calls, all of this, like, direct sales, calling expired leads and canceled and for sale by owners, for rent by owners, all of the people that hated real estate agents. And I didn't have good systems in place in order to, after I did deliver a good service and sell these people's homes, I didn't have good systems in place to have a machine that was going to build a business that would sustain me for the future. And I didn't have strong marketing in place to attract and acquire new business or to generate new business from my current database. And really, I was only as good as my last sale. And I did not realize that until my wife shook me up at around the age of 35. And I was at a conference and I was asked to call one person I knew and respected in business and ask them two questions. What did I not do well in business, and what didn't I do enough of? And I never thought about that question before. And I called my wife, and her answer blew my mind. She said, I didn't take risks and I didn't take enough risks. Like they were both risk related. I mean, she probably regrets that because I figuratively started jumping off buildings after that, and and investing in myself in so many different ways. And then we moved and picked up our business, became our virtual remote team member of our business, and started new businesses, and like moved, and just all of the things. But anyway, I would say, yeah, back to marketing, not marketing, not leaning in, not opening my mind to those different things. So takeaway, be open, be present, and understand that you have to surround yourself with people smarter than yourself, be present and learn from them, and know that everything's always changing and you have to adapt. Evolve or die is what we say.
Good answer, man. Good story. Jay, buddy, I was looking forward to doing this, man. I was looking forward to doing this podcast with you. I think
But
it's
not anymore.
well, I was just gonna say that it over delivered for me, man. Right? Like I think you and I have had a lot of conversations. You and I have had a lot of like, how are we gonna approach this thing together? I think we both identified each other as people that we A, really resonate with each other, and B, strategically want to do stuff together, man. So I'm really pumped by it. But I would be remiss to not mention how much I respect how open you are to some of the conversations I've had, right? Like I've seen you're not just saying this, right? Like you are somebody that in conversations we've had, you've come into it and walked away from the conversation like, "Oh man, I don't know if I agree with this," and then come back to me and be like, "I get it." And you've acted
Yeah.
towards it, right? Like, and I just really really admire that quality, man. So I'm super pumped about all the stuff that we're doing together, and thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, you bet, man. Thank you. One of the things, Pablo, that is challenging is to take the concepts that we know about AI and how it's changing the industry and just business and what we do, and simplifying those concepts.
Hmm.
So just throwing that out there, that's something that we really need to be focused on, and make sure that we are able to simplify the concepts, make them relatable, and just chunk them down to really easy concepts to
Love it.
understand.